Two aggressive bikers at a gas station in Arizona thought they had found an easy target when they started harassing a woman alone inside the convenience store. What they didn't know was that this woman was Sarah Miller, and that Jack Reynolds was right there watching their every move, and what he was about to do would make those two men regret it for the rest of their lives. The evening air hung heavy with tension as the bikers circled around Sarah like vultures. The elderly cashier behind the counter nervously fidgeted with his glasses, clearly unwilling to intervene. A young mother quickly ushered her child out the door, sensing the brewing confrontation. If you're enjoying stories like this one, we'd love to hear where you're watching from in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We've got more thrilling stories coming your way tomorrow. The highway stretched endlessly under the Arizona night sky, the stars twinkling like distant diamonds against the vast darkness. The desert was silent, save for the faint hum of Route 66, often referred to as the Mother Road of America. A sleek black 1970 Dodge Charger roared down the asphalt, its powerful engine slicing through the stillness. Behind the wheel, Jack Reynolds maintained a firm grip, his sharp blue eyes focused on the road ahead. He felt a sense of freedom on the open highway, a place where there were no prying eyes, no distractions, just him and the road. Beside him sat Sarah Miller, a former investigative journalist who had spent years chasing stories across the nation. She was sipping a soda, a thoughtful expression on her face as she gazed out the window. Despite the calm of their journey, there was an undercurrent of tension in the air, a feeling that tonight was different from any other night. "You're unusually quiet," Sarah remarked, glancing over at Jack. A slight smirk appeared on his lips, but he continued to stare ahead, enjoying the drive without saying much. Sarah raised an eyebrow, sensing that he was contemplating something more than just the road. "I know you too well. You always have a feeling before something happens." Jack tapped the dashboard lightly as the fuel light flickered on, breaking the silence. "Low fuel," he murmured. "I have a feeling we need to stop for gas soon." As they continued down the highway, a small, isolated gas station came into view, its dim neon sign buzzing softly in the night. The last chance gas sign flickered feebly, illuminating a dilapidated building that had seen better days. The fluorescent lights inside buzzed erratically, casting a dull glow over the cracked pavement. The gas pumps looked ancient and rusted, remnants of a bygone era. Jack pulled the Charger into the lot, cutting the engine as they took in their surroundings. The only other vehicles parked nearby were two motorcycles, their riders leaning against the wall of the store, bathed in the neon haze. One of the bikers was broad-shouldered with a scruffy beard, wearing a leather vest adorned with faded patches. The other was wiry, a long scar running down his cheek, and a cigarette dangling from his lips. They eyed Jack and Sarah with an unsettling interest. "Let me grab some coffee," Sarah said, opening her door and stretching her arms. Jack nodded, his eyes narrowing slightly as he watched her walk toward the store. The moment she stepped out, she felt the weight of the bikers' gazes upon her. One of them let out a low whistle, a smirk spreading across his face. "Well, well, look at what we have here," he called out, his voice dripping with mockery. Sarah squared her shoulders, determined not to show any fear. "Just passing through," she replied coolly, ignoring their taunts as she made her way into the store. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and old newspapers. Dusty snacks lined the aisles, and outdated magazines cluttered the shelves, while a buzzing refrigerator stocked with off-brand sodas hummed quietly in the background. A radio crackled with static, playing a long-forgotten country song that added to the store's eerie atmosphere. As she approached the coffee machine, she could sense the tension rising behind her. Footsteps echoed softly, slow and measured. Sarah glanced at her reflection in the coffee machine's glass and saw the bearded biker standing just a few feet away, a predatory glint in his eyes. The scarred biker loitered near the entrance, effectively blocking her exit. Sarah's grip tightened around her coffee cup, knowing that this was a dangerous situation. "Didn't expect to see someone like you out here," the bearded biker said, his voice gruff and condescending. Sarah kept her expression neutral, refusing to show any signs of intimidation. "Just passing through," she repeated, trying to diffuse the situation. The scarred biker chuckled, an unsettling grin spreading across his face. "What's the rush? Stick around, we could keep you company." Their intentions were clear, and Sarah recognized their game. They were testing her resolve, waiting to see if she would flinch. Outside, Jack finished refueling and noticed the tension escalating through the store's window. He set the gas pump back in place and walked toward the entrance, his movements calm yet deliberate. Inside, the air felt thick and charged. Sarah took a small step to the side, but the scarred biker mirrored her movement, effectively cornering her. The bearded biker leaned in closer, his voice dripping with menace. "Bet you get a lot of attention back home, but out here nobody's watching." Just then, the door swung open, and Jack stepped inside, his presence commanding immediate attention. The biker stiffened, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Jack's eyes quickly found Sarah's, silently asking if she was okay. She offered the slightest nod, reassuring him that she could handle it for now. "Apologize," Jack said, his voice calm yet authoritative. The store clerk, a skinny young man with wide eyes, froze as the bikers hesitated, caught off guard by Jack's demeanor. The scarred biker let out a dry laugh, trying to downplay the situation. "You serious?" Jack took a step forward, his gaze unwavering. "I don't repeat myself." The tension in the room escalated as the bikers exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, the bearded biker clenched his jaw and turned to Sarah. "Sorry." The apology was hollow, lacking sincerity. Jack remained stoic, his expression unreadable, prompting a more genuine response. "Try again," he urged. After a moment of silence, the scarred biker swallowed hard. "We're sorry," he mumbled, a hint of fear creeping into his tone. Jack nodded, satisfied. The bikers knew the dynamics had shifted, and without another word, they moved toward the door. Before they stepped outside, the bearded biker shot them a smirk. "This ain't over." Jack didn't flinch, merely watching them leave, his jaw set in determination. Sarah exhaled slowly, finally realizing how tense she had been. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked, a hint of concern in her voice. Jack didn't answer immediately. He took a deep breath, scanning the parking lot. "People like that don't like losing," he replied, his voice low and steady. The gas station felt quiet again, but the night no longer had the same peaceful aura. Jack's instincts told him this wasn't over yet, and they had to stay vigilant. As they climbed back into the Charger and the engine roared to life, the neon glow of the gas station faded behind them, leaving an unsettling feeling lingering in the air. If you're intrigued by this story, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep an eye out for more gripping tales from Flourishing Tales. As the Dodge Charger thundered down the highway, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Jack kept his eyes fixed on the road, but the unease in the air was palpable. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that their encounter at the gas station was far from over. She glanced at Jack, who seemed to be lost in thought, and she felt a chill run down her spine. "Do you think we should have done something more?" she asked, breaking the silence. Jack turned his head slightly, his jaw tightening. "We did what we had to do," he replied, his voice steady. "But they won't take that humiliation lightly." The thought lingered in the air between them as they continued to drive. They were now miles away from the gas station, but the dim glow of the neon sign still danced in Sarah's mind. She recalled the bikers' smirks and the way they had circled her like predators. Jack was right, they wouldn't let it go easily. As they drove deeper into the night, the horizon began to shift with the glowing lights of a small town. Jack slowed down, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. Sarah peered through the windshield, her heart racing at the thought of the bikers possibly following them. Just as they approached a fork in the road, Jack's instincts kicked in. "Let's take a detour," he suggested, veering off to a less traveled road that wound through the outskirts of town. Sarah nodded, her anxiety heightening as they left the main highway. The road was narrow, surrounded by tall trees that loomed like shadows against the moonlight. It felt isolating, a stark contrast to the bustling energy of the highway they had just left. "I hope this is the right call," Sarah said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "What if they find us out here?" Jack glanced at her, his expression calm but serious. "We'll be fine, just stay alert." As they continued down the secluded road, Jack noticed a pair of headlights in the distance. They were far enough away not to be alarming, but he felt a familiar twinge of anxiety. He increased his speed slightly, wanting to put distance between them and whatever was behind. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to look out the rear window, her pulse quickening when she saw the headlights growing closer. "It's them, isn't it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack clenched the wheel, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the road ahead. "Just keep calm," he instructed, trying to maintain control of the situation. The headlights drew nearer, and soon Sarah could make out the shapes of two motorcycles flanking the Charger. The bikers had followed them, and it was clear they were not going to let this confrontation die quietly. Jack's heart raced as he felt the weight of the situation bearing down on them. They were being hunted, and it was time to take a stand. Jack slammed his foot on the gas, the Charger roaring to life as they surged forward. The bikers matched their speed, the engines of their motorcycles growling menacingly in response. Sarah's stomach twisted with fear as she glanced at Jack, who remained focused and determined. He wouldn't let them intimidate them. "Are they trying to force us off the road?" Sarah shouted over the noise of the engines. Jack nodded, his grip on the wheel tightening. "They're testing us. We need to show them we won't back down." The road ahead twisted and turned, and Jack expertly navigated the curves, pushing the Charger to its limits. The bikers, nimble and agile on their motorcycles, tried to box them in, using their speed to their advantage. Sarah could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she leaned forward in her seat, ready for whatever might come next. Suddenly, the lead biker swerved closer, trying to intimidate Jack. He swung a heavy chain, aiming for the windshield of the Charger. Jack reacted instinctively, jerking the wheel to the left to avoid the strike. The chain missed, but it shattered the side mirror instead, sending shards of glass flying into the night. "Are you kidding me?" Sarah exclaimed, her heart pounding. "They're serious about this." Jack gritted his teeth, determination etched on his face. "I'm not letting them take us down." With a surge of adrenaline, Jack accelerated, pushing the Charger past 90 miles. The bikers followed closely, their engines screaming as they fought to keep up. Sarah's eyes darted between the rearview mirror and the road ahead, and she could feel the tension building. The lead biker, now furious and desperate, pulled out a gun. Sarah's heart dropped. "Jack, he's got a gun," she shouted, panic rising in her chest. Jack's focus sharpened. "I see it," he replied, his voice steady. Jack swerved sharply, taking a sudden turn onto a dirt road that veered away from the highway. The bikers didn't hesitate. They followed, their motorcycles kicking up dust in their wake. The terrain was rougher here, but Jack was determined. He could see the anger on the bikers' faces, and he knew they were prepared to do anything to assert their dominance. As they raced through the winding path, Jack calculated his next move. He had to act fast if they were going to escape this dire situation. With grit and resolve, Jack pushed the Charger to its limits, expertly maneuvering through the twists and turns while keeping the bikers at bay. "Just hold on," he yelled, adrenaline coursing through him, as he prepared for what lay ahead. The confrontation was just beginning, and Jack was ready to fight for their safety. If you're captivated by this intense story, drop your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for more thrilling tales from Flourishing Tales. The Dodge Charger roared through the winding dirt road, its powerful engine echoing against the surrounding landscape. Jack Reynolds gripped the wheel tightly, his focus unwavering, as he navigated the twists and turns. Sarah Miller sat beside him, her heart racing with both fear and exhilaration. They were in the midst of a high-speed chase, and the stakes had never felt higher. Behind them, the bikers pursued relentlessly, their motorcycles roaring as they matched Jack's speed. The lead biker, his face twisted in a mixture of anger and determination, was intent on catching them. Jack could see the glint of metal as the biker raised his arm, and a surge of adrenaline coursed through him. "They're not backing down," Sarah shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "Stay calm," Jack replied, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. He knew they had to outsmart the bikers, and he was determined to keep Sarah safe. The road ahead was narrowing, and every twist could spell disaster. Jack took a deep breath, preparing to make his next move. Suddenly he spotted an opening, a sharp turn that led to a more populated area ahead. "We need to lose them in the city," he announced, his mind racing with possibilities. He slammed the gas pedal, sending the Charger surging forward as they approached the turn. Sarah clutched the door handle, bracing herself for the sudden maneuver. As they made the sharp turn onto the main road, Jack glanced in the rearview mirror. The bikers were right behind them, but the tighter confines of the streets gave him hope. He could see the bright lights of the small town illuminating the darkness ahead. "Hold on tight," he yelled, as he swerved into the Charger weaved through cars, Jack expertly maneuvering to avoid collisions while maintaining their speed. The bikers struggled to keep up, their motorcycles less suited for the crowded streets. Sarah's heart raced as they zipped past bewildered pedestrians and startled drivers, each second feeling like an eternity. "Jack, they're right behind us," Sarah exclaimed, her voice rising in urgency. Jack felt the pressure mounting as he pushed the Charger to its limits. The bikers were determined, and he could see them gaining ground as they navigated the traffic with reckless abandon. "Just trust me," Jack replied, his jaw set in determination. He scanned the streets for an escape route, knowing he needed to outsmart the bikers before they could catch up. The tension hung thick in the air as they turned another corner, heading toward a parking garage that loomed ahead. "Let's go in there," Sarah suggested, pointing toward the entrance of the parking structure. Jack nodded, veering sharply into the garage. The sound of their tires screeching against the concrete echoed in the confined space, and Jack quickly maneuvered the Charger into a parking spot that was tucked away from view. As they sat in silence, catching their breath, Jack peered through the windshield. The bikers had entered the garage behind them, their engines roaring as they searched for the Charger. Jack's heart raced, and he knew that they had to act fast. "We can't just sit here," he said, his voice low and urgent. Sarah nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "What do we do?" she asked, glancing the dimly lit garage for any signs of an escape. Jack's mind was racing, calculating their next move. He spotted a staircase leading up to the next level of the garage. "We need to get out of the car and find a way to outsmart them," he said decisively. They quickly exited the Charger, their hearts pounding as they crept toward the staircase. The sound of the bikers' laughter echoed from behind them, and Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. "We need to be quiet," he whispered, leading Sarah up the stairs. As they reached the second level, they found themselves looking down at the parking area below. The bikers were roaming around, their frustration palpable as they searched for the Charger. Jack and Sarah crouched behind a concrete pillar, their breaths shallow and quiet. "Do you think they'll find us?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack shook his head. "Not if we stay hidden," he replied, his eyes scanning the area for a way out. Just then he caught sight of an emergency exit door at the far end of the garage. "That's our way out," he said, pointing toward the door. "But we need to move quickly." They waited for a moment, watching the bikers' movements, and then made their move. Jack and Sarah dashed across the open space, adrenaline fueling their speed. As they reached the emergency exit, Jack pushed the door open, and they slipped outside into the cool night air. They found themselves in a narrow alleyway, the sounds of the bikers fading behind them. Jack took a moment to catch his breath, feeling a mix of relief and urgency. "Where do we go from here?" Sarah asked, her eyes darting around the alley. Jack glanced back toward the street, his mind racing with options. "We need to find a way to lose them for good," he said, determination etched on his face. "Let's keep moving." They took off down the alley, the night air crisp against their skin. Jack knew that this battle wasn't over yet, but they had a chance to turn the tide in their favor. If you're on the edge of your seat, share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more gripping stories from Flourishing Tales. As Jack and Sarah navigated through the narrow alleyway, the adrenaline from their narrow escape still coursed through their veins. The faint sounds of the bikers echoed behind them, but they were determined to put as much distance as possible between themselves and their pursuers. Jack led the way, his senses heightened, scanning their surroundings for any potential threats. "Do you think they'll find us?" Sarah asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. Jack shook his head, trying to project confidence. "Not if we stay smart and stick to the shadows. We need to find a place to regroup and figure out our next move." They emerged from the alley into a dimly lit side street lined with abandoned buildings. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "What's the plan?" she asked, glancing around for any signs of danger. Jack paused, considering their options. "We can't keep running forever. We need to confront them on our terms." As they crept further down the street, Jack noticed a nearby diner, its flickering neon sign casting a soft glow. "Let's check out that diner," he suggested. "It might give us some cover." They slipped inside, the bell above the door jingling softly as they entered. The diner was nearly empty, with only a few late-night patrons scattered at the counter, their conversations a low murmur. Jack and Sarah quickly found a booth at the back, their eyes darting to the door. "We can wait here and keep an eye out for the bikers," Jack said, lowering his voice. "If they come in, we'll be ready." Sarah nodded, her heart racing, as she glanced around the diner. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with a tired smile, approached their table. "Can I get you anything?" she asked, her voice warm and inviting. Jack forced a smile. "Just some coffee, please." Sarah nodded in agreement, grateful for the brief distraction from their predicament. As they waited for their drinks, Jack leaned in closer to Sarah. "We need to think about how we can turn this around," he whispered. "If they come in here, we can't let them intimidate us. We have to show them we're not afraid." Sarah's eyes widened slightly. "What do you have in mind?" Before Jack could respond, the bell above the door jingled again, and both of them turned to the two bikers enter the diner. The lead biker, a broad-shouldered man with a scruffy beard, scanned the room, his gaze landing on Jack and Sarah. A smirk spread across his face as he nudged his companion, who was wiry with a scar running down his cheek. "Well, well, look who we have here," the bearded biker called out, his voice dripping with mockery. Jack's heart raced, but he remained calm, aware that showing fear would only fuel their aggression. "What do you want?" Jack replied, trying to sound steady. The bikers sauntered over to their booth, a confident swagger in their step. Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach, but Jack maintained eye contact, refusing to look away. "You two thought you could just run away from us?" the scarred biker taunted. "Not a chance." Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself. "We're not running, we're just not interested in your games," he replied, his voice firm. The waitress returned with their coffee, placing the steaming mugs in front of them. The bikers eyed her suspiciously, but Jack quickly waved her off. "Just give us a minute." The tension in the air thickened as the bikers leaned in closer, their expressions menacing. "You think you can just disrespect us and walk away? That's not how this works," the bearded biker sneered. Jack could feel the eyes of the other patrons on them, and he knew they needed to defuse the situation. "Listen," Jack began, his voice low but clear. "We don't want any trouble. Just let us leave, and we'll forget this ever happened." The scarred biker let out a laugh, shaking his head. "You really think we're going to let you walk away after what you pulled? You are in our territory now." Jack could see the fire in the biker's eyes, and he knew they were not interested in backing down. It was a standoff, their resolve against the biker's aggression. "You don't have to do this," Sarah chimed in, her voice steady despite her fear. "We can all walk away from this without any more confrontation." The bearded biker leaned back, crossing his arms. "What's your angle? You think we'll just let you go after you embarrassed us? We don't take that lightly." Jack felt a surge of determination. They had to turn the tide in their favor. "Okay," Jack said slowly, "let's make a deal. You can apologize for your behavior, and we can all leave here without any more drama." The bikers exchanged glances, surprised by Jack's boldness. "You think we're going to apologize to you?" the scarred biker scoffed. "Why not?" Jack countered, his tone unwavering. "You can walk away with your pride intact, or we can escalate this, and it won't end well for any of us." The tension in the diner was palpable, every eye on their table, waiting to see how this would unfold. After a long pause, the bearded biker shifted, clearly weighing his options. "Fine," he said, his voice gruff. "We'll apologize, but don't think for a second that this is over." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. "Good, now let's all just walk away." As the bikers turned to leave, Jack and Sarah exchanged a glance, the weight of the confrontation slowly lifting. They had managed to stand their ground, showing that they wouldn't be intimidated. If you're intrigued by this intense narrative, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't miss out on the next thrilling chapter from Flourishing Tales. As the bikers turned to leave the diner, Jack and Sarah exchanged a moment of relief, their hearts still racing from the confrontation. They had managed to stand their ground, proving they weren't easily intimidated. But as the door swung shut behind the bikers, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. "Do you think they'll really let it go?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Jack leaned back in the booth, his mind racing. "I doubt it. They're not the type to back down easily. We need to stay vigilant." The waitress approached their table, concern etched on her face. "Are you two all right?" she asked, glancing toward the door where the bikers had just exited. Jack offered a reassuring smile. "We're fine. Thanks. Just had a bit of a misunderstanding." She nodded, but her expression suggested she didn't fully believe them. "Just be careful. Those guys have a reputation around here." Jack felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "Thanks for the heads up," he replied, his mind already racing with thoughts of their next move. After finishing their coffee, Jack and Sarah knew they couldn't linger any longer. They needed to find a way to leave town without drawing attention. "Let's head back to the Charger and get out of here," Jack suggested, keeping his voice low. Sarah nodded in agreement, and they slipped out of the diner, the bell above the door ringing softly behind them. As they walked toward the parking lot, a sense of unease settled over them. Jack scanned the area, searching for any signs of the bikers. The night was quiet, but he knew better than to let his guard down. They reached the Charger, and Jack quickly unlocked the door, glancing around to ensure they weren't being followed. Just as they settled into the car, Jack's heart sank as he spotted a familiar silhouette in the distance. The two bikers were standing near their motorcycles, waiting just outside the diner's entrance. "They're back," he whispered urgently, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. Sarah's eyes widened in fear, and she glanced around for an escape route. "Do we try to drive away?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack thought quickly, weighing their options. "We could, but they'll probably try to block us. We need a different approach." Suddenly, a loud roar interrupted their conversation as the bikers revved their engines, a clear signal that they weren't going to let Jack and Sarah leave without a confrontation. Jack's adrenaline spiked, and he knew they had to act fast. "We need to create a diversion," he said, his mind racing with ideas. Jack spotted a nearby dumpster and quickly formulated a plan. "Stay here," he instructed Sarah. "I'll create a distraction, and then we'll make a run for it." She hesitated, concern flickering in her eyes. "Be careful," she urged, but Jack was already stepping out of the car. He moved swiftly toward the dumpster, not taking his eyes off the bikers. As he neared it, he kicked it over, sending garbage spilling onto the pavement. The loud crash caught the attention of the bikers, and they turned their heads, momentarily distracted. "Now!" Jack shouted, sprinting back toward the Charger. Sarah's heart raced as she saw Jack's plan unfold. She jumped into the passenger seat, and Jack quickly slid behind the wheel. They had to move fast before the bikers realized what was happening. With a roar of the engine, Jack slammed on the gas, the Charger surging forward just as the bikers turned back to them, their expressions shifting from confusion to fury. Jack swerved around the motorcycles, narrowly avoiding the collision as he sped out of the parking lot. "Go, go, go!" Sarah yelled, her heart pounding, as they raced down the street. Jack pushed the car to its limits, weaving through traffic. As they left the diner behind, the adrenaline surged, as they felt the thrill of escape. But just as they thought they were in the clear, Jack glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the bikers hot on their tail. "They're following us," he shouted, his heart sinking. Sarah's stomach dropped as she turned to look, panic rising within her. "They're not going to let this go easily," she said, her voice shaking. Jack's mind raced as he searched for a way to shake them off. "We need to lose them in the city," he replied, his determination rising. Jack took a sharp turn onto a narrow side street, pushing the Charger harder. The tires squealed as they navigated the twists and turns, the sound of the bikers' engines growing louder behind them. "They're right behind us," Sarah exclaimed, gripping the dashboard. "We can't let them catch us," Jack said, his jaw set in determination. He spotted a bridge up ahead, and an idea sparked in his mind. "If we can make it to the other side, we might have a chance." With renewed resolve, Jack accelerated, the Charger roaring as they approached the bridge. They were almost there when he heard the unmistakable sound of a gunshot. "Jack!" Sarah screamed, her eyes wide with fear. The bullet struck the back of the Charger, and Jack felt a surge of adrenaline push him forward. "Hold on!" he shouted, as he raced onto the bridge, the bikers in hot pursuit. The stakes had never been higher, and Jack knew they had to outsmart their pursuers if they wanted to escape this nightmare. As they crossed the bridge, Jack spotted an open road leading into the darkness. "This way," he yelled, taking the turn sharply. The bikers followed, but the narrow road gave Jack a slight advantage. "We can do this," Sarah encouraged, her voice steady despite the chaos. Jack pushed the Charger to its limits, determination fueling his every move. They raced into the night, the sound of the bikers fading behind them. If you're captivated by this thrilling narrative, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't miss the next exciting chapter from Flourishing Tales.